Hello folks, right, I'm just going to have a chat now with David Marshall of TM Terrain. He's just delivered our wonderful terrain that we're going to be using at Salute this year for our Druid participation game. So while he was here, I wanted to use the excuse to prod him and ask him a few questions about how he put the board together. So this is the complete finished thing, but we have got some work in progress shots that you'll be looking at on screen that show where the thing started from. So yeah, David, like I said, I just wanted to ask you a few questions about how you put these boards together. This is a 4x4 in 2x2 sections.
That's right, yeah.
So yeah, just looking at the initial pictures, you construct a frame initially.
Yeah, every time. So it's a 18mm MDF frame with a hardboard base, and then I can fill it with polystyrene. It's always white polystyrene,
Okay.
because it's easy to work, and then I cover it with grout and things like that, which gives it the firmness.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's always the MDF surround, because then it's indestructible then.
Yeah.
You're going to do more damage to yourself than you are to them.
Yeah,
So,
it's very hard wearing. Yeah. Why is that bit all flaky like that?
No
There's
idea.
flex in it.
It's just
the
got
way
little
it
bits of
comes.
black in it, or colour in it. Sometimes the polystyrene does, and it
Alright.
doesn't make any difference to how it works.
It's just the way it comes.
It just comes that way. Yeah.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
right. So looking at some of the particular features on the table, we've got the trees, obviously very nice looking trees. So these are all pre-bought by me actually from JG Trees, weren't they?
JG Miniatures in Sheffield. Yeah,
Yeah.
he generally sells to 54mm guys and collectors, but trees are unscalable, aren't they?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I've used these a lot for Wargamers as well, and they're gorgeous.
Yeah,
They are
they're great looking
fragile.
trees.
So they're no good for clubs and things like that, but
Yeah.
for demo games and looking after them, then they'll last for a long time.
Yeah, if we're going to look after them, they do look great, don't
They're
they?
great,
Yeah.
yeah.
And some other bits that we got from other people as well. We got some Grand Manor buildings that were
Yes.
made by Dave Bodley at Grand Manor, which came pre-painted.
Yeah.
So they're in the settlement over there. We also
See if you can remember everything.
yeah. Well, the Wicker Man, he came from Ainsley Castings,
Yeah.
didn't he?
Yeah. he did.
You painted him up,
That's
came
right,
like
yeah.
basic
Yeah.
resin. We also got
Oh, well done. I thought you might forget that
no,
one.
I remember that. Yeah, so that was a Druid's altar, but it's now the entrance to our long barrow. This is the long barrow
Yeah,
over
and
here.
that was from Ainsley as well.
That was
wasn't it?
Ainsley, yeah. The stone circle, which is actually complete, isn't it?
That's
Came
right. It
complete
comes
like
on a
that.
base, so it comes just a little bit wider than that, and it's just
Yeah.
a one piece
Yeah.
from Templar
Templar, was it?
Wargames or Templar Miniatures.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And then actually other things that also came from JG Miniatures were
Yes, these ruined these dead trees,
yeah,
and then these two bits of rock,
yeah,
and these long grassy
these
clumps.
tufts, yeah, yeah,
And that's it for JG.
yeah.
Yeah.
Other things like the leaves and other bits of shrubbery and stuff. They came from effectively from your bits box.
They're a mix, really. This stuff on the long barrow is horsehair with homemade flock on it.
Mm-hmm.
This is these are sheets of long bushes and things like that from somebody's Scenic's Great Escape Games sell them in the UK.
Oh yeah,
They're
that's right.
A4 sheets. They're great.
Mm-hmm.
Bits of flowers and things like that. They're from debris of war,
Mm-hmm.
but from lots of people sell those sort of things.
Yeah.
And then on here, which this is the
Dream Tower.
Dream Tower.
Yes, the Druid's Dream Tower.
The ivy is Jarvis,
That's right. Yeah.
all the little bits of fern, that's JG Miniatures.
Yeah.
He does a nice little bag of dried fern, but
Mhm.
it's preserved rather than dried, so it's not going to dry and
Become very-
disintegrate.
Yeah, fragile.
But
Yeah.
lovely for that sort of thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I think that's
that
about it, really.
that's the Dream Tower which you put together. It's supposed to be a ramshackle tower that the Druid's retreat, really, that he goes to for his meditation and things like that, which is something that I described to you and you put together. Influenced a bit by a Bernard Cornwell book, actually, that one. Some
Right.
other features, like we say, we've got the Wicker Man here. Does that door open?
It doesn't. No,
Oh, right.
there was no hinge.
Right.
No,
Well,
no.
in theory, that's going to be full of criminals who are burnt. And as we can see around the bottom here, we've got the remnants of previous Wicker Man that have been burnt there as well. Then we've got the long barrow. This is a Neolithic tomb, so we're talking about pre-Roman Britain here, about 200 BC. So they weren't using long barrows anymore, but I wanted to include that as a feature. So it's not been kept looking its best, really. We wanted it to look a bit sort of collapsed in, didn't we, really, which I think we've got
And the
there.
stones around the edge, they're real stones, so
Right.
that gives it, that's probably the heaviest board out of the four, but
Yeah.
purely because of the stones.
Yeah.
Um,
And then over to the settlement over here, we wanted a sort of hint of a Celtic settlement there. We've got this stockade around the side here, and then looking again at your work in progress pictures, this is how you built the village up, wasn't it?
that's right, yeah.
Using different type of...
I used blue insulation foam. Now this is denser than the white stuff, but I thought it was, you didn't want it contour. Well, you wanted it contoured, so flat and straight, so you could put the buildings on. And so I was worried that maybe I couldn't put too much grout on it, so it would be quite vulnerable.
Yeah.
The blue stuff is a lot heavier and easier. It's
More
hard wearing. That's the word.
More hard wearing
Than the white
basically,
stuff. So I thought I'd use that.
Yeah.
And
So
you'd be fine with that.
Yeah. So they're two different types of material,
Yeah.
effectively.
But I generally don't use that if I can help it, because it really is hard to work.
Right. Okay.
The white stuff is very easy. Okay, you get snowed on. I mean, you get tons of white bits stuck to you, but the blue stuff is really hard work on my arm. And with the amount of stuff I do,
and your time
it's
of life.
quite important, and my time of life. The arthritis.
Yeah. So after we've gone through the stages of building up the boards individually and the polystyrene on and things like that, you give the whole thing a covering, which I think we've pretty much skipped to here. Is it that's your first layer of?
That's right. Well, when I've put the grout on, I then, before I get to that stage, you can see I've got sand on here.
Yeah.
So I use chinchilla dust, which is I don't think it is sand. I think because it's designed to be absorbent, obviously, because it's for chinchillas. And then I use cat litter, again, to give it a little bit of greater texture, just sprinkled around. And then once that's dry, then I put the base coat of brown on it. The brown is usually what I start with all the boards. And it's rich praline too.
Okay.
Dulux off the shelf.
Yeah, don't give all your secrets away.
I don't know.
Yeah, and there in this picture here we can see the start of the sacrificial platform as well, which is this thing over here. The sacrificial platform's got more bits and bobs to add on to it as well. I wanted something there that was based on what's been unearthed at La Tène in Switzerland, which is which they believe is a sacrificial platform that the Celts, in inverted commas, used, and we're going to decorate that very vividly in severed heads and things like that, arms and shields and all sorts of things. So that's going to look very busy by the time we've added extra bits onto it. But here you're just making it and putting clamps to great use there.
Yes, yeah. I had to really think about this, because I had to make it in strict order, because this is water, and I make the water with a polyfiller, quite a watery polyfiller mix to give it the wavy, slightly undulating water look.
Yeah.
And then I'll paint it, varnish it, and things like that. But so I had to start building. I had to put the posts into the board before I put the polyfiller down. But so I couldn't jump ahead. I had to be careful doing it in order, and then I couldn't put the planks on until I painted it, because it's tricky getting underneath. And so I really had to make sure I did it in strict order. Otherwise I was going to have to take steps back to...
Yeah, and I suppose that's an important part of many of the models you make, isn't it? To get the timing and the order right, that you put things together in, like making a good meal. And then if we look on this picture, which is right near the end, really, basically almost what we're looking at here, we've got the paint on and the final layer of flocking and that on.
and I mean the flock is well, it's static grass, the foam, the fine foam, and I use a dark green base from Woodland Scenics. That's weed fine texture, and then a lighter green, and then a final lighter green, and then around the wooded areas, I use more coarse foam and brown mixes and stuff like that to give it a slightly woody look there and there. Whereas here is quite smooth, so because I've always got to be thinking that it's a Wargames table, so you've got to have figures on it. So you don't want to make it too textured.
Yeah, all the figures are going to fall over. Aren't they?
But I've been able to put individual leaves on. You can get bags of they look a bit elmy.
Yeah, the individual leaves really look great, don't they? I mean, in actual fact, they'd be quite large for a 28mm figure, but it's just the overall effect looks really good. Yeah. Well, great looking table.
Thank you.
I'm sure this is one of many that you're doing for Salute, isn't it? Or one of a few at least.
I think I'm doing.
You've got your hands in a few pies.
4, I think, including one for me. But
but
that's taking a back seat. Everything else is priority. So.
Okay.
I'm doing. So this one, I'm doing one for Crooked Dice for their post-apocalyptic game. Yeah. That's going to be a 6x4 table. Yeah. And then Ian Smith is doing a 40mm ACW.
Because we've seen his 40mm Napoleonic game.
That's right. You're in the magazine. Yes, and he's going to use the same boards, minus a few new ones added.
Right.
It's going to be a coastline, and there's a big 40mm fort, which is going to be 4 foot by 2 foot, based on Fort McPhee or Fort McGee.
Right. Okay.
So I'm in the process of doing that. Okay. And then my one is an Indian Mutiny game, which was we got out 25 years ago. We thought we'd reintroduce it because it was a very popular game then. But I'd hope to add a little bit more to it that I might not have time to do.
Okay, but the ones you're doing for your clients, obviously.
That's the important ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Right. Well, thanks very much. And of
Pleasure.
course, if you want to get playing on this table, you should see us at Salute. Come over to the Wargames Illustrated table and have a game of Druid. Right. Cheers, David.
Pleasure. Thank you.